If I take the ball, I'm actually failing as a leader because leadership is generating results through other people. Leadership is generating results through other people. The same results I could generate on my own. If I do it on my own, I'm not a leader. I'm just a doer. I'm a performer.
And hello to you. It's Relationships at Work, the leadership podcast helping you build workplace connection, improve culture, and avoid blind spots. I'm the host of the show, Russel Lolacher. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm a communications and leadership expert. Got a couple of decades under my belt in both those areas. Pretty successful as well. It's almost like I know what I'm talking about sometimes. Needless to say, I'm thrilled you're here because that shows you're curious, just like me, on how we can make the workplace a better place. So thank you for having us be a stop on your leadership journey. Really, really appreciate it. One of the biggest journeys that a lot of people go through is, I call it the Michael Scott problem. I've mentioned it a few times on the show. This is when somebody's a really high performer. They're amazing at what they do. And then they're put in positions to lead, or the expectation is for them to lead, because of course, leadership isn't always a role. I call it the Michael Scott problem because, of course, the show The Office, Michael Scott was a horrible leader, but phenomenal salesman. And that's what got him to where he is. And doing this podcast, I've asked so many people about their worst experiences. And a lot of them have to do with having leaders that were not ready for that position that they were in. They weren't ready to look after other people. They weren't ready for that because they were so tied up in that thing that made them so great. And that was their key skill. They didn't know how to shift into this new leadership role. We're going to talk about that today. My guest has some really insightful thoughts about how we can move better from being high performers to leaders, not only maybe for ourselves, but for those we lead, because our teams are rife with those kind of people that are fantastic at a thing, but maybe not quite ready to be that leader quite yet. And as leaders, it's our job to help them with that journey, just like we're on our own. All right, hold on. We're going to talk to Adrian very quickly. On the show today, we have Adrian Koehler, and here is why he is awesome. He's a no BS leadership coach and culture consultant, senior partner at Take New Ground, a global executive coaching and training firm introducing the art and science of leadership. He's helped train and develop leaders from the Navy SEALs, Nike, Virgin Hyperloop One, Oprah. You've heard of a few of these. Oprah, you've heard of a few of those. And he's here to help us transition from performer to leader. Hello, Adrian.
Russell, so great to be here, man. Love you, love your style, love this show. Thanks for your investment in so many people.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'm super excited about the topic because I find it to be an important one we don't pay enough attention to, while also dismissing it a little too much. The right person for the right job kind of conversation. Anyway, right. I'm going to get ahead of myself. Question I have to start with you, sir, as I start with all of my guests, which is, what is your best or worst employee experience?
Oh my gosh. Which one's the juiciest one to tell you?
It's always the negative one people jump to. It doesn't have to be, though.
I can speak of the best too.
Okay.
Because I've had four kind of big career shifts in my life. I was like pre-med guy in college, decided not to go the doctor route. Last minute decided to get a nursing degree, worked in the Children's Hospital in Chicago. And there's the best and worst both happen there because you're up against the brink. You're helping save kids' lives. Sometimes that works and it's miraculous, and sometimes it doesn't work and you have to be with people in the worst ever. But then I moved out to Los Angeles and I was a pastor for many years. Mostly a social activist type guy, not one of these dogmatists from the stage. More okay, doesn't love make the world go round. If that was true, what would we be doing with our lives? And so like service-based, taking people around the globe. And then I ran a foundation and worked in the prison system. I did leadership trainings with murderers that were dying to get out and have another chance. They'd done something when they were 16, 17, 18, and now they're 38, 39, 40. And looking for freedom, but needed freedom between the years before they actually got out so they could stay out, because most people didn't stay out. And now I do this, been doing this 15 years. So that my best experience has been the willingness and the ability, I guess, to follow my gut, even when all of those are direct turns. It's like a 90-degree turn or doesn't make sense to most people. where it's like some people are like, oh, pick a track and go build yourself towards that track. That's okay. And that works for some people. It never worked for me. But I had a mentor and I'll end here, but my mentor of mine said, hey, just if you experiment, but experiment in the same direction, if that made sense. So the ability to kind of reinvent over time has been my best experience. And although I looked like a fool and I didn't know what I was doing and I was faking it every single time, but if you've got courage looks like competence if you're good at it. It's like you're gonna go figure out who you need to know and who you need to talk to partner with. That actually that is what makes you competent. Not do I know the answer, but am I willing to go find the answer? And that was built over time. So I'm just grateful that got to happen. I've got lots of horror stories I could share, but whatever.
Well, so to follow up on that, so you fail and fumble and succeed in a particular
Yeah.
direction and keep going
Oh
that.
yeah.
Where do you pivot? Like, where do you go to the point going, I failed and pivoted and done it enough where I have to go, you know what, I have to go in a different direction. What was that for you?
Yeah. It wasn't actually like that for me where I felt like I'd
Okay.
hit the wall enough that I had to go somewhere else. I was just always looking for I was listening internally to myself because I didn't want a job to feel like a job. And maybe I'm spoiled in that way, but I didn't want that. And some people just sign up for that story. As a job's a job, and yeah, they wouldn't call it a job if it didn't suck. Blah blah blah. All the cultural stuff people sign up for just so they can complain to their spouses and drink a lot. But I didn't want to sign up for that. I just wanted to sign up for okay, does this make me come alive? Am I able to serve other people? Do I like who I'm becoming? And then opportunities happen. It's opportunities happen or like you get moments of inspiration that all of us at times and who knows how many I have, but you can quell those things and think, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't. So I've got several of those in my head of things that I've been excited about and didn't take action on. But then you follow an epiphany and go see what's there. And I've always been drawn towards mentors. So that's always what helped. I'd find somebody I wanted to be close to, find somebody I wanted to be like, and then see if there's a way to become a lieutenant to that person, to become an apprentice to that person. If you can create value, then there's space in the organization. And then, so that's how it's always been for me. It's, oh, that'd be cool. Let me go see what's over there. And I go see what's over there. I thought, oh, that's neat. And although I mean, when I first got into coaching, I would always fear that people would say, hey, how'd you get into this profession? Because most people ask that question. And I would always fear at the beginning because I'm like, I didn't think I had a compelling story for such a long time. Because it's like I didn't like work at Apple for 15 years and now I'm going to go do this consulting work or IBM or whatever but it finally dawned on me, and I'll end here. It's, oh, there's a through line for me, which was I am good at, and I actually love being with people in crisis and helping them have the courage to take the effective action to get what they want. That's like the through line for me. And I could point
Right.
that out in all the turns. So it was more like opportunity called me and then a willingness to go risk and look stupid for a little while again and break up the chain. My resume doesn't look great, but my impact is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's what worked.
Fair. And having a curiosity engine doesn't hurt either. You're
Oh yeah.
super being nosy about stuff is not a bad thing. Leading yourself into the next opportunity is a great one. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you
Well,
for sharing
and
that with me.
yeah, and picking yourself. It's like just it's I always I always think about like sixth grade recess. It's like we got 20 minutes to play basketball, and then you're standing around, or you just say, "Okay, I'm a captain. You're a captain. Let's go. Let's." You just pick yourself. You just pick yourself.
Fair, fair.
So,
This does weirdly segue into our conversation a bit, though, because when
mhm.
opportunity knocks, sometimes we should answer and sometimes we shouldn't. And that's where I kind of want to understand your ideas around moving from a performer to a leader. But
Mhm.
before we get into that specifically, I kind of want your take on what you even mean by a performer and a leader. What is the difference between the two?
Huge difference. So I'll speak to it by the folks that I've always worked with, specifically in this space for the last 15 years. So I get hired to coach leaders now, and all of them are brilliant. All of them are ambitious. All of them are capable. All of them are adventurous in some ways and curious. In broad categories, they're like that. And when I started out, I mean, I'm 45 now, so I was 30 when I started. So I started coaching middle managers when people like were kind of that were my age and middle management at different companies, and I just started with who I knew. So I knew a bunch of 30-year-olds, and I had a bunch of trust with them, and they're all really impeccable people. And here's the challenge when you're talented and when you're successful at whatever sphere you're at. When you're talented and successful, you actually get numb to why you are so. And by that I mean, if you're used to being the most effective person, the smartest person in the room, for some, the most liked person in the room, and you're just used to winning, then when it's time to, or you get an opportunity to go take a risk, you actually are thrown out of your equilibrium because all of a sudden now I've jumped up to another size pool, if you will, to use a metaphor, and that's frightening. And so what people tend to do, so back to the question of performer, is high performers bet on themselves, right? So I know if I'm on a team and we got to get something done, and if I'm going to bet on somebody, I'm going to bet on me. You know why? I can control me. I know
Mm.
me. I know my history. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm influential if I'm in that group or whatever, so I can bet on me. That's what a performer does. He says, "Give me the ball." That's we use this. I won't go into it much, but anyway, there's a paradox between being authoritative, which is "Give me the ball," and being collaborative, which is "Hey, let me share the ball." That's a paradox that every leader, every person on a team has to navigate because
Mhm.
it's safer, emotionally safer. If you believe in yourself and you're really good and all that, it's emotionally safer to just "I'll take the ball," using a sports metaphor. That's what a performer does. Now, a leader thinks collaboratively. Thinks if I take the ball, I'm actually failing as a leader because leadership is generating results through other people. Leadership is generating results through other people. The same results I could generate on my own. If I do it on my own, I'm not a leader. I'm just a doer. I'm a performer. But if I'm willing to take the risk, I have to generate results through other people, which is there's a lot more inherent risk. There's a lot more communication necessary, a lot more awareness necessary, empathy necessary, grace necessary, education. Like you have to give a whole lot. And that's why people say, "Oh, if I had more time, I'd hire somebody." What they mean is a lot more than time, but they have a sense that what time actually means is space. What time actually means is humility, because I say to my clients all the time is what you do most naturally, you teach most poorly. So, and that's if you know this from all your background and how much of an expert you are. It's what you do it and you just you're natural at it. But if you had somebody at your side all day saying, "Hey, how do I do this?" You might not even know because it's just called being Russell. I don't know. I'm good at this shit. And great leader or great performers, it's so intuitive for them. They don't know how they know it. And so it's actually exposing whenever they can't, and it's frustrating whenever they can't teach the thing that seems so natural to them. So that's why this jump is challenging. Those are my two categories.
So I'm curious about why it's so hard for great performers to make that shift. Because I mean, I
Yeah.
call it the Michael Scott problem, where
Uh-huh.
it's from The Office, right? He was an amazing salesperson. He was a horrible leader. So basically, what we're seeing is we're losing a great salesperson, and we're gaining a crap leader because
Yeah.
somebody at head office thought it would be a good idea to move him
Sure.
because he was good at the one thing.
Yeah.
So what are we missing? What is that great performer missing that they're just not connecting the dot for leadership? Is it just the me, me, me too much?
Well, it's doing versus being, I would say. That's the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
thing that comes to mind is if you're a great performer, you're good at doing shit. You just know what to do. You might be great at being strategic. You might be great at taking action. You might be great at accessing information. You might be great at all these things, but it usually comes down to action. What do I need to do to get this thing done? And they usually, if you're a great performer, you're a self starter. You want Gallup uses the word activator. You're just prone to action, ready, action, 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 action. And you'll stay up late. You'll burn the midnight oil. And that's what great performers do. But the distinction with being a leader is creating an environment in which great performance happens. That's kind of odd philosophical language. That's really
Right.
what I mean. So what I mean by that is if I'm a great leader, I create the environment. Like I say this is true for everybody, but every individual is a culture. And by culture, I mean a whole set of conversations about what works and what doesn't work and what's encouraged and what's unencouraged and what we can talk about, what we can't talk about. That's what culture is. So if you're going to be a great leader, you must be about being, back to a little philosophical, but it's like this is who Adrian, if you use me as an example, this is who Adrian is. This is what he's up to. When I'm around him, I feel this way. When I'm around him, I get these sorts of permissions. When I'm around him, I feel like that. I believe in myself in this way. That's all. I call it spiritual. I don't mean it weird and religious at all. I mean it invisible. Leaders are spiritual beings. Period. Meaning like I generate a spirit, like a whole environment of being in which people can participate or don't not want to participate. That's the thing. It's invitational or it's expelling in that way. So that's a big shift is that if you've made your money on doing, and now if you're doing, you're losing money, and by that I mean generating value, that's a big jump for folks because it's for some it seems really squishy. For some, it seems unnecessary. And if you've gotten to your point in your career by being better than everyone, it's hard not to keep judging people, right? Because if I'm just fighting on if you and I are like in the same job and my job is to beat you, let's go kick ass. Let's do that. I can look at you,
Yeah.
and if I'm better than you, I win. If I'm on a team now and I'm dependent on you, and now my job now if I'm judging you, I'm losing. When I used to use that judgment as fuel, now that judgment actually holds me back from actually doing my job. Anything I judge in you, I need to go get close to, not to judge. I can keep judging it, but I'm not going to get close to it. If I don't get so, and then they must face their own demons because most of us won't get close to the things in others that we still judge about ourselves. And every high performer I know is haunted by being found out. We all have this kind of fraud story is that maybe someday somebody's going to find out. So if you've got something that sounds like my biggest shame point or my biggest fear, I'm naturally going to run from it because I don't like it in me. But if I can come to peace with it and actually put my arms around it, we call it hugging the cactus. If I can put around my own internal fraudulence, then when I see it in you, and when you tell me you're going to get something to me by Tuesday, and now it's Wednesday, so therefore you've lied, and I know, oh shit, I've done this a lot. But if I can own it in me, oh yeah, I'm just a chicken sometimes. I'm a coward. And then I can get close to you and say, hey man, you didn't keep your word on that. What's going on? And you could easily say, hey, what the fuck's wrong with you? And
Right.
you start a performance plan, or you could care about people as humans, which takes more energy, more calories, and the body doesn't like to spend calories. The body
I'm
wants
curious
to
what
save
the
calories. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm curious about the tipping point, both internally and externally, because
Yeah.
the motivation for a lot of high performers to get into leadership roles and positions is money. First
Hmm.
off, because I'm not making enough to get to that tier. I need to be a leader. I need to have people that I'm responsible for. Or it's just responsibility profile. I mean, these are all the things. So, as an individual, I'm looking at it for micro macro here a bit. As an individual, how do I know as a high performer or just a performer? Because I know there's some great leaders that were not high performers. How do I know that I'm ready to move to that next bit? And from the
Hmm.
other side of it, how does an organization know going, you know what, Sally's ready to move up to be leadership? She's been a high performer, but I'm seeing something in her. How do we
Yeah.
know it internally and how do we know it externally that there's that ready for that leap?
Well, I used to talk about a thing I haven't talked about in a while, but I used to call it the readiness myth. And here's what I meant by that. I don't know if I'm ready. What is readiness? Readiness is like a projection into the future, believing that if I'm in that situation, I'll know what to do and I'll do what it takes. That's a projection of the future. So I don't think we actually ever, I mean, the whole preparedness thing and am I prepared for it? It's just a superstition, I would say. Now, it's it if I think that it's like that, I think we're in trouble. But on the other hand, how do I know if I'm ready? If I'm willing to do what it takes, I'm ready. That's my honest answer for it because I don't know what it's going to take. I can think I know, but that's just a superstition. I better have a more of an internal lens saying, okay, am I ready or am I willing to do whatever it takes? Ask any question in any room, look as much of a fool as necessary, speak up, stop hiding, be fully exposed, and then utilize all my capabilities to go figure out what the real problem is, which most people don't do. They treat symptoms in every area of life. They treat symptoms instead of core issues and get down to it and then expose myself that people might not like me. That's a big one for most people, especially Canadians. Not like you, Russell. You're like you
No, of
distinct,
course not.
but especially Canadians. And then I'm gonna see, learn, do whatever is necessary to get the results, and hopefully do it with great people and have a heart for. They aren't my enemy; they are my ally. And even if they think they're my enemy, to me, they're not. And even if they don't like me, that's okay. It's like I'm just imagining if I jump up, this happens all the time in companies, is like I'm a peer with people, all of a sudden I start managing the people I was a peer with. And that's attention. And if they don't like that, that's okay. But I'm here to get a job done and I care about you. I want you to win. If I'm like talking to my former peer, now and the person that reports to me is, "Hey, Sally," or "Hey, Tom. Hey, Tom. Hey, man, I know this is awkward, but I don't want any animosity here. I can't control it from your side, but I just want you to know it's weird. I get that it's weird. I want you to know I'm on your team, and however I can help you win, I'm here for you." People don't speak like that. That takes guts
Mhm.
to own the room in that way, but if you're willing to do that, and that's how you set the tone, and then Tom gets to decide, is he willing to work on your team or not? If he's not, okay, well, Tom, I love you, but if you don't wanna work with me, you wanna gossip about me, that doesn't work. It's never gonna work with me, man. So, but I get it. It's a human thing. Whatever, all that. So, you're not ready, but you're willing. And not that you ought not be educated and go find mentors and that do all that stuff, but it's a readiness myth. Just if you're willing to go be the fool for the sake of the mission, and you have to have I think a personal calling to become the type of person that can get that job done. That would be also another distinction because it's also me, I'm a being person. So I have to be willing to see myself in a new way and call myself to a higher standard. It's like the next level of adventure. And am I up for that or not? It's okay if you're not, but be real with yourself. Because if you go chase the dollars, it's not going to work anyway.
No.
You're going to go make a whole bunch of enemies and blame everybody else until it doesn't work. And then you'll get fired or whatever and blame them. You'll have reasons instead of results. So that was the first part. I think your second question was, as an organization, a Patrick Lencioni book comes to mind. Let's see if I can remember it. He had three things: humble, hungry, and something else. It was like 3 H's, like Patrick Lencioni does. But anyway, but it's a bummer I can't remember that right now. But you guys, if listeners haven't read anything from Lencioni, you ought to. He's written a handful of New York Times bestsellers. This is, I think, called The Ideal Team Player: humble, hungry, and smart. Those were his three things: humble, hungry, and smart. So if I'm running an organization, there's two buckets for me. And this is how I coach my folks, especially when we're looking at a breakdown with any kind of employee they've got. Is it a competency issue or is it an attitudinal issue? Usually things fit into one of those two. And it's the search is shorter in the competency issue. Meaning, do they have the market knowledge? Do they have the willingness? Do they have the intellect? Do they have the curiosity? Do they have all those things? Those are pretty easy to understand. And then the other bucket is attitudinal. And if the competency hasn't shown up quickly after the breakdown has occurred, then it's actually not a competency issue. It's an attitudinal issue. Because if Russell has a problem and he cares about the problem, he's going to figure out how to solve it in a day, 2 days. You got 15 people you're going to call. You got 100 YouTube videos you're going to watch. You got 3 conferences you're going to sign up for. But it's like you'll solve the competency issue rather quickly if the attitude is there. So if I'm running an organization, I'm going to listen really for the hungry part and the humble part. Is somebody being teachable, and are they willing to put the work in? And then do they have the intellect to go absorb the information and put it to work? Those are like 3 things that come to mind. But I'll bet on attitude all day long. Obviously, somebody can't not have the mental capacity for it. But, it's like I don't have the mental capacity. I mean, I coach, all of my clients are like 10 times smarter than I am. And it took a while to get over that, but that's just the case. That's just the case. They beat me in test scores in high school, all of them. But yet they call me to talk about the hard stuff they don't know how to get through. So I have to be humble enough to own what I do to serve these folks that are more brilliant than I am. And I get insecure about it frequently because they're all brilliant. And I hope they don't know, but they don't hire me for that. They hire me for with the courage that I provoke in them. So I look for attitude in that way. Is like, what's somebody's vision of the world? What's somebody's vision of themselves? Are they willing to shore those two things up? Are they willing to be committed to their own personal transformation? And they have to have the chops, sure. But it's really that commitment to personal evolution and transformation that makes the big difference. And it's really, I think, maybe I'll shut up here. But the title of your podcast, Relationships at Work, do they see that people are the answer? The strategy is not the problem. If the thing's not working, we'll blame it on the strategy, but it's actually not that. It's about what didn't happen in the room at the strategy meeting. It's the conversations that didn't happen, and people were chickens. They saved themselves from the exposure of being honest about what they saw and weren't willing to put language to, if that makes sense. So if I will take anybody that sees other people as possibility and is willing to disrupt the current system at play for the sake of the future that hasn't yet been adopted. I'll take that person all day long because that person can till the soil, if you will, of a if there's a 6-person meeting, those are usually wastes of time because somebody's talking and everybody's just in Tom's meeting instead of, "Oh, no, no, I'm here to make Tom better." That's my job. If I report to Tom, my job is to make Tom better.
How do organizations are generally now this I can't disagree with anything you're saying. Here's my problem though with leadership ecosystems
Tell me.
is that we don't know what leadership is. So we look at people going, you're humble, you're smart, but that's performative a lot of the time because people know how to manage up. They know how to be a high performer and they know to tell you what you want to hear. Meanwhile, their team's burnt out, their turnover rate's crazy, but they're still delivering. They're fine. They're a great leader because they keep delivering. But that's still back to the performative side of things rather than true leadership. So how do we crack that nut? Because there is that misconception that delivery equals leadership when that is a part of it and not solely all of it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you when you said that we don't know what leadership is, I was gonna ask you what you meant by that. I think I know now by the rest of your question. At least it sounds to me, and
Sure.
correct me if I'm wrong, and you might be speaking from more of a corporate background, and I feel for corporate folks. I wasn't ever a corporate person, I'd get fired immediately, so God bless you all that can play that game, and I'm not a big fan, just because for me, there's not a lot of vitality in, like, just playing the
Right.
game for 20 years, and so there's nothing wrong with you. If you're good at it, get after it. That's great. That's why I coach mostly founders of companies now. I started out coaching middle managers, and then I realized, "Oh, I work better with entrepreneurs." 'Cause they're usually what I call type A dickheads. They're my favorite people. Like, I get them. I can be one of them. You can ask my children. So, but to your question, yeah, I I think, underlying your questions is a nuance in there, which is, yes, if you're part of a culture where it's like results are all there is, that's what matters. The what is it? The end justifies the means.
Mm-hmm.
And if you live in that way, and if you're not willing to be a means, then you should get out of that culture, I would say. Because I mean, everybody needs to understand the under the table negotiation of what the company's about, right? So what do we care about? What we care about is actually what's happening. That's what we care about. So it is results, but it's also experience. What's the experience of people that work here? And if you look around, if you feel it for yourself, oh, I don't matter here, I'm a number. Or if I'm in a meeting, I can get dismissed or I can get ridiculed and I can get publicly whatever. That's if that happens and nobody talks about it, that is the norm. And so to sit around complaining about how someone treats someone, and if I've been there more than a year, then you're a part of the system because your silence is a contribution to the system. Now, a lot of my work is based on kind of the concept, more the reality, I would say, of personal responsibility is that if you're in a meeting, it's your meeting, period. If you've been invited, might not be the one quote unquote running it, but what a great hiding place. So stop hiding and start owning it. If you're in the meeting, it's your meeting. Now, most people don't take that on because that's risky to say that my voice matters, even if I've been given the megaphone or not. I decide if my voice matters. I decide if I have integrity or not. So if you have a twinge internally that someone ought not to be talked about that way, and you don't say anything, you're as bad as the bad guy that said it. So that's a pretty daring idea. So, but if you're going to think about culture and you're going to think about where you're going and you're going to think about what's necessary to move forward, I would look at it from a lens of personal responsibility because there's the most vitality in there. So, to your point, if you're in a culture that's just results driven, you got to think about yourself. How much do you want to be a tool? Because you are a tool. If that's all there is, then you are a tool. Great. Am I okay with that? It might be worth the money. It might be. Or maybe it aligns with my history of the family I grew up with. And it's just natural for me. I like to be a tool. People wouldn't say it that way, but that's results tell us the truth more than we do. So if I'm used to being, what's the word? If I'm used to being abused, then being in an abusive environment is actually the most safe environment I know. Now, they wouldn't use safe, but it's the most predictable, which actually, for our brain, predictability equals safety. I know what's coming. My boss is a jerk. And my dad was a jerk, so I like working with jerks. Works. I know what to do. I know how to keep my head down. I know how to perform. I know how to have penance. I know that's it's normal for me. So but you'll complain about it, just like you do about your dad, like you complain about your boss, all that stuff. But it's just if you want to get free, you got to get real about the deal you make with reality. That's a weird statement for most people, but it's like, what's the deal I make? So, to your point again, the question is do we care about people? Now that is actually, you can quantify that quite simply by saying, hey, Russell, how are you doing, man? But you'd have to be willing to hear the answer, because it might not be, he might say, I hate it here. And then you have to deal with what's there for him, either what you agree with Russell's perspective, or the type of care and concern you'd have for Russell to challenge maybe some of his concerns, and that takes vulnerability. So I'm speaking about a way to engage reality in a way that's full of questions instead of full of solutions, if that makes sense. Like if you came to, so if we worked together and you were upset about something and you brought me your complaint, and if I just kept co-signing on your complaint without asking you any questions, I'm not your friend. I'm an accomplice. So I want to care about you enough to make sure that you got to the bottom of your issue so you weren't miserable for the next 10 years. But most folks aren't willing to do that, or don't have the skills to do that, or don't have the language for it, but usually not the internal courage to deal with what's there and realize that Russell's issue is Russell's issue. Does Russell want to solve his problem or not solve his problem? That's the first question. Do you want to solve it or not? And most people don't want to solve anything. They'd rather hide.
Hard.
They'd rather hide in their complaint. Well, yeah, it's hard. Hard in the sense that, Russell would have to take a leap to get out from behind his complaint. All of our complaints in life are shields that are meant to protect us from the responsibility we have to the contribution we're making to the problem we're complaining about. That's a weird long statement. But if I'm complaining about you and you're my boss, and if my complaint shields me from looking at me in the mirror and say, hold on, Russell, my boss, I like him for these reasons. I hate him for these reasons. I wonder how I'm contributing to the things I hate about him. Most people don't ask that question because it's safer and because they can justify it and because they have something to talk about at the barbecue, instead of saying, hey, you know what? Do I care about Russell or not? That's the question. Do I care about the results or not? And if I don't, and I'm here, then do I like the integrity I'm not living in? Or am I willing to take a risk and have some real conversations? That's the pain in the ass I am for any client that's working with me.
It's funny you bring that up. I talk regularly about the 7 blind spots. Yeah, 7 blind spots to great leadership ecosystems. And one of the biggest ones is avoidance, is that we just don't want uncomfortable conversations. We don't want to do extra work because we're busy enough as it is. So why not just not make eye contact? Why not let's not have those conversations? So I completely hear what you're saying. Yeah. What this leads me to is to understand your coaching with your clients.
Yeah.
Is that, so you're working with people that are alphas. They're the people that have made these organizations what they are, being entrepreneurs, building something up. They were doers. They were doers for a long time. So there had to be that switch that they went from doers to leaders.
Yeah.
How are you helping them realize that is now their job now, instead of being the doer? That's the reason we're a success, is I started this thing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love these folks. I mean, my experience, and I'm sure if you're listening here, you're a leader and you are responsible for a lot of the great outcomes, and good for you, because the world rises and falls on the backs of leaders. So thank you if you're a leader here. Also, leaders tend to have the experience of being very alone. They call it being alone at the top. It's not that to me. It's like the experience of being alone at the top, which is a nuance that most folks won't make. But the experience actually has its payoffs as well as its prices. We only want to look at the prices, but there's payoffs because I actually don't have to do anything. I don't have to open myself up and say something. So, but if people are in that situation, in that context, and they have created it It's almost it's the image that comes to my mind, and I'm thinking about an old mentor of mine that told me this once. It's because he was into rock climbing, like wall climbing. It's like they go to the gym and or do a thing. And there's a move if you're doing wall climbing, and I'm not some wall climbing expert like rock climbing, but they call it a dynamic shift or a dyno, I actually think is what they call it. And it's is where you skip a handle, right? So it's like you could go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all the way up, or you could just jump and do 3. And so that's what comes to mind when you ask that question is even one of my most fun clients that I've worked with for several years now, which we talked about a little bit before the show started, world-class engineer, world class, like built things that everybody would know if I explained it here that he did. And now the conversation this week versus 6 years ago is very distinct. His questions are about what do you think he'll mention a problem employee or a guy that's not performing. He says, "What do you think the conversation is that I need to have that would be worth 5 conversations in one?"
Mm.
Right? And that's much more personal than practical, by the way. It's much more personal. We'd love it if it was all X's and O's and it was all very linear and very binary and let's just do this thing. Let's write the equation. No, there's actually questions that are worth 5 answers, if that makes sense. And so I think that's my real answer to your question is like when people make that jump, they must be willing to take a lot more risk, interpersonal risk than they did before. Because usually they have to risk time, they have to risk energy, they have to risk in some level of exposure. But now it's, oh shit, I need to become really nuanced at how to generate the most powerful conversation in the room, not get to the right answers in the room. And that might sound weird to people listening, which I understand if it does, but it's like actually having inquiry that drives performance, not answers, because the brain is looking for answers. It's called Cartesian inquiry. It's what do I not know versus what do I know? That's how we move. That's how we build buildings. That's how we build companies. What do I not know? What do I know I don't know? And how do I move it to what do I know I know? That's called Cartesian inquiry. It's built the whole world. Welcome to the Renaissance. Now, this type of thing is what do I not know what I don't know? Like, where am I blind? And as a leader, it's intimidating to even think about that because if people saw what I'm blind to, I'm sure I would die because it's about ego in that sense. Instead of standing in, hey, there's something not working here, and I don't even know the right question to ask, but let's just sit here awkwardly for a second and talk about what it could be. What am I not seeing that I ought to see? Most leaders don't ask that question. If they did, they'd be much more successful. What am I not talking about that I need to be talking about? What are people talking about when they're not around me? That's a powerful question. What are the rumors about me right now? Can you please help me out? If I could move as a leader, if I could take a big leap, what do you think I would need to understand in order to do that? That takes some guts to ask that. I always say, like, when a leader comes to an epiphany, they're the last one of the party, because that's the case for most of us, because there's a million conversations about you as a leader if you sign up for the job. And if you want to engage the fact that that's not a problem, that's the gift of being a leader, is that your team is also there for you. If you don't see them as enemies, if you see their feedback as a gift to you, you don't have to agree with it. But if you see their feedback as a gift to you, it's, oh, wow, this is great. And if you listen to it and you absorb it, it's like respect goes through the roof. If you make changes based on what they said, oh my gosh, trust happens. Their voice matters. Yeah.
The awareness you're nailing on. No, the awareness, the empathy. It's so funny because a lot of leaders in those positions have no concept of the damage they're doing by still trying to be doers.
Right.
Because they're not being their full potential leaders in those because they're still too busy being in the micro rather than thinking of the macro. Right. So they don't get it. But I mean, it takes that curiosity. It takes that humbleness, to your point earlier, of shifting the needle going, but if I just take a moment. So yeah, I'm thrilled that's the work you're doing because it helps shift that needle and it's a ripple effect to the whole organization because that's modeling for other people too.
Yep.
So I want to wrap it up with a question around for leaders that may not realize they are causing that damage. They may not realize they are half-assing leadership, to be completely honest, because they're still doing that doer role because they're so easy and good at it. What would you tell them tomorrow if they wanted to take that first step into self-realization, that curiosity, what would you recommend they do to start down that path of really embracing what authentic leadership is?
Yeah, they have to probably ask a whole bunch more questions. One of the things that comes to mind first is this, because there became a conversation in culture, probably I would say maybe, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago, where micromanagement was like the curse word. It's, oh, my boss is micromanaging me. And they probably were, because they didn't trust you. But what's necessary is what I call like micro accounting. And here's what I mean by that is like most leaders don't build a culture based on agreements. They build a culture based on guesses or based on assumptions would be the better word. Is that okay, because Tom's smart, Tom went to a great school, Tom's done this and that, then when I ask Tom to do this, he'll do it. And that's an assumption, and that fails both parties. Fails both parties. Actually isn't good for Tom. Now, but if you're asking Tom details, he's going to feel like you're micromanaging him. So you got to generate a whole conversation about why I'm interested in both results and him as a person. Two things. And if I'm a leader that wants to make the shift, I got to own that tension. It is a tension. Is if you get close to results, people are going to feel like you're in their business. And by the way, if you're a leader and you're responsible, you're paid to be in their business. Now, if it comes off, if you are a person that doesn't trust people and isn't willing to bestow trust, and I trust is a gift, not something people earn. We could do an hour on that, but trust is a gift. I'm going to trust you. And by the way, how I know if I ought to trust you is if what you said was going to happen, happened. Period. That's what an agreement is. It's a promise. Like a promise is somebody sends forth the future that's going to happen. That's what a promise is. And with that is commitment. I'm sending with my promise myself. That's what commitment means. Promettere, committere in Latin. I can nerd out about that. But anyway, I'm going to send with my promise myself. Therefore, back to what I said earlier, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Now, if I don't deliver, it means I wasn't willing to make the requests in the meantime to renegotiate my promise or to let the person that I'm responsible to know that it wasn't going to happen and then renegotiate the promise. Now, most people aren't willing to be this surgical, which I understand because it's a pain in the ass. I'd rather just judge Tom instead of get to know Tom and see what Tom needs to have happen for him and what his issues are. And if you're a leader with a bunch of high performers, they are scared to death to be normal. Like high performers want to stand out from the crowd. So if they're failing, they're probably going to hide it. That's what high performers do. We hide it until we figure it out ourselves. So if you're a high performer that wants to get into this next level of leadership, first off, own all that. See all that yourself, by the way. So when you see it in somebody else, you don't judge it, you get close to it. And don't lower the bar. Raise the bar. It's communication and interdependence is the goal here. I need you, you need me. Everybody needs each other. Can we stop faking it like we don't? And if you perform, I like you. That's what the transactional mind wants to do. If you give me what I want, I'm your friend. If you don't, you're my enemy. That's the way the brain works. Instead of a commitment to say, we're going to need each other. So we're going to need to be a lot more vulnerable. And if you don't have what it takes in the moment, because you never know what's going on for people. Somebody's parent might have died, or somebody's dog might be sick, or somebody, whatever the thing, they might be going through that, but they won't bring that to the surface and let you know so you can help intervene or bring somebody else to the table. But you can create that kind of culture where let's just deal with reality and what's wanted and needed to make it happen. As if Russell's a killer guy that executes, but not this week because he had a baby. And so he's busy. And he might fake it, but he's not going to deliver, and he's going to make up all his excuses probably. Or he could just say, hey, man, I'm having a baby, so I need a bunch more help than normal. Can we do that? And so if you create that type of environment where people speak about what's wanted and needed versus what they want to look like, which is human. The human being wants to look good, feel good, be right, be in control. That's human being, like period. That's gravity for humans. So you need to create a conversation where people can prioritize both the outcomes and the relational dynamics over just looking good or being right or being in control or that kind of thing. So that's what I would do. That might be a little bit mystical for people listening to it. but call me. We'll talk about it.
It's a lot of work to get to for tomorrow. Adrian Koehler is here. He is a no BS leadership coach and culture consultant and senior partner at Take New Ground. Thank you so much for being here, Adrian.
You're amazing, brother. Thank you, man. Thanks for the conversation. So dynamic. Love what you're up to.